objective is to conduct data analysis regarding the perception of security in Mexico through the organization, presentation, interpretation, and exposition of the results in order to gain more precise understanding of the population's opinion on security. Introduction. The INEGI, the National Institute of Statistics and Geography, is a governmental institution in Mexico responsible for collecting, processing, and disseminating statistical and geographical information. INEGI conducts various periodic surveys and census to obtain updated data on the population and economy and other important aspects of the country. This collection of data is important because it helps to understand the population's opinions on security and trust in government institutions, citizen security, and it aids in comprehending the population's perception and improving security in communities. This report will undertake an analysis of over 1,620 data sets collected through the National Survey, specifically focusing on the topics of public security and trust in the government institutions. Starting off, we have the socio-demographic variables. These variables provide us with the following information: age, gender, socio-demographic stratum. In age, the mean age was 44 years old, with 25% of the individuals being younger than 30 years old, 75% older than this age, and in addition, 75% were younger than 57 years old, with the remaining 25% being older. The mode age was 33 years old, and the following graph represented this data. Continuing, this graph displays statistics and percentage in a cumulative phasic plot. The graph indicates that the data is dispersed, leading to a particular distribution. Likewise, it demonstrates a right-skewed distribution, meaning there are very old ages in the sample, which is the cause of the asymmetry. Trend of perceiving insecurity by age. In this bivariate analysis of age with the variable of security perception in the state, it was able to analyze the trend of responses. It can be inferred that older individuals tend to perceive more insecurity than younger individuals. This is all explained in this box plot age. Sociodemographic variables. Female gender, represented by number 2 in P chart of gender, was more prevalent, comprising 53.1% of the presented data. On the other hand, the male gender, represented by number 1, accounts only for the 46.9% of the sample. Regarding the socio-demographic stratum, represented in B chart of socio-demographic stratum, it was observed that the lower middle stratum, represented by number 2, constitutes the majority of the sample, followed by the upper middle stratum, represented by number 3, with 20.9% of the samples. The lower stratum, represented by number 1, accounted for 70.4% of the sample, and lastly, the high stratum, represented by number 4, was the least frequent, represented only 9.3% of the sample. All of this represented in the P chart. Social concerns indicators. In social concerns indicators, 3 variables were analyzed as follows. Concern about unemployment, represented by AP4202. It was observed that only 32.8% of individuals in the sample responded yes. Regarding concern about unemployment, while 67.2% responded no or did not affirmatively declare concern. In our second variable of the social concerns indicators, it was about insecurity, represented by AP4205. In this category, a higher frequency responded was observed for yes, accounting for 58.6% of the total sample, while 42.4% responded no or did not affirmatively declare concern. This is all shown in the P chart and in the chart of AP4205. And at last, concern about corruption, represented by AP4208. In this sample, a percentage of 77.2% did not affirmatively declare concern, while the 22.85% responded yes regarding concern about corruption. Perception of security by state of residence. In the perception of security by state of residence samples, two variables were analyzed: state and perception of security in their state, represented by AP4303, with the purpose of identifying the state of the public with the highest frequency within the responses and the frequency of the perception of security in the state. These were represented by number 1 as safe, number 2 as unsafe, and don't know or no response as number 9. In this graph, it can be observed that the state with the highest frequency in the sample was the Mexico City with 112 samples, while the one with the lowest frequency is Zacatecas with only 24 samples. In second bar chart analysis, it can be observed that the most frequent response was insecurity with a value of 1,144 out of a total of 1,621 samples. This represents the 70.57% of the total sample data, while a scant 21% responded that they perceived their state was safe. 1.7% of individuals choose not to respond. This can lead us to the conclusion that most of the people believe that their state is unsafe and there is insecurity in their state. Trust and perception in justice institutions. In this analysis will be analyzed two institutions, the state police and the National Guard. Trust and perception of corruption in the state police. The data regarding trust in the state police is represented as follows: number 1, as much trust; number 2, some trust; number 3, some distrust; number 4, much distrust; and 9, no, if it doesn't know or no response. Need to be clear that there are missing data. In the perception of corruption, number 1 is meaning is yes, number 2 no, and number 9 doesn't know, no response. The confidence in the state police was as follows: only 6.6 mentioned having much trust in the state police, and 31.1 have some trust. On the other hand, 60.7 have some level of distrust, and 10.5% have much distrust in the state police. These statistics indicate that 27.2% of the people distrust the state police, and while 27.7% trust is good, the amount of distrust in the police force is concerning. Furthermore, regarding the perception of corruption, it shows that 41.9% perceive corruption in the state police, while only 18.4% does not perceive it. A significant portion of data is missing, but the fact that almost 50% of people in the sample perceive corruption is an indicative that some changes need to be made to improve. In the trust and perception of the National Guard, the data regarding has the same values, and this information shown that regarding trust in the National Guard, it was determined that it's a higher level of trust than in the state police, with a positive percentage of 64.4%. On the negative side, only 8.8 mentioned having some distrust, and 3.6 individuals in the sample have much distrust in the National Guard. Regarding the perceived corruption in the National Guard, 46% of people did not perceive corruption, while 21.8% of individuals in the sample does perceive corruption. This data demonstrates that currently is a higher level of trust in National Guard than in state police. In conclusion, the data analyzed on security perceptions in Mexico yield valuable insights into citizens' perception of security and trust in authorities. The collected data and statistics indicate a widespread of insecurity in the country, underscoring the importance of addressing public security challenge. Despite this insecurity data, the data also reveals levels of trust in authority, also they may be slightly lower than expected. This highlights the opportunity to strengthen the relations between individuals and government institutions, increasing transparency and accountability to build a greater public trust. In conclusion, INEGI provides the data analysis that reflects not only the changes but also the opportunities to improve the country by better understanding security perception and trust in authorities, more effective public policies and strategies that can be developed to address public concerns and create a safer and more trustworthy environment for the citizens. This data analysis also serves as a valuable tool for making informed decisions and advancing Mexico toward a safer future. Thanks for your attention.